things go back to normal. It's a valid point. Our memories are short. But I think what has happened because of this Black Swan event is that we have experienced something which we never experienced earlier. You mentioned, Shraddha, that you always look down upon work from home, and Ritu mentioned that there are certain roles which cannot be effective working from home. All of these are points. But we've also experienced, I think Hari mentioned that he's seen the number of working hours increase. I've experienced the same thing. I think everyone is sitting at home and everyone wants to get some discussion done and get some work done. So we've all experienced that it's not that when you're working from home, you're chilling out, you're able to get work done. There might be certain roles, or even in regular roles, there might be certain inefficiencies which might come in. But what are the benefits on account of this? The time that we save in traveling, particularly in India, what is the employee motivation impact that produces, and all of the other environmental effects, and so on. So I think what will change is, having experienced this, organizations will look at this realistically and will decide whether they want to incorporate some amount of remote work in their working culture. So now I come back to your question, Shraddha. Yes, we've committed $225 million towards COVID relief efforts, and this includes cash donations to several organizations, including the United Nations, and it also includes support through our various solutions, such as something that I touched upon earlier. Now, a good part of this support is coming to India as well. Let me tell you something which really warmed my heart. So one is we provided WebEx to over 200 government entities and healthcare organizations, which amounts to about 50,000 licenses by itself. And in addition, we have donated a large number of video devices. Now, somewhere during these efforts, we realized that due to challenges on the supply chain side, especially with China, it was becoming difficult to make these units available rapidly to these healthcare and government organizations. So we got to thinking about what could be done. And we realized that each of our offices, which are spread across so many cities around the world, has a large number of video devices in conference rooms, cabins, etc. And we took a decision to just take those units and donate them to organizations that need them. Now, this is being done globally. In India, we've taken units from Bangalore, Mumbai, Gurgaon, all of our offices, and we are donating those. Now, when all of us resume work and the lockdown is over, we'll realize that we don't have these collaboration devices. But we'll be very happy that we've been able to make a difference in the COVID relief efforts. And there are so many examples of this happening around us. Just yesterday, Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Health Sciences trained 25,000 health workers on COVID response in one day using WebEx. And this is
all over the country. These people were all over the country?
Yes, all over the country, 25,000 health workers in one day, and it's going to continue. So we are enabling the scale up. So we are talking about scaling up testing facilities, scaling up healthcare workers, etc. So the government is looping in all kinds of people to support in this healthcare, and we are enabling the scaling up of that through providing training remotely and efficiently. There are so many state governments who are managing police operations, daily police operations, tracking vegetable prices on mandis, reviewing daily operations on WebEx platforms. So this is one aspect. Now, while all of this is very critical, the challenges faced by regular employees, you and me and our teams, are equally tough. Our solutions are giving employees a sense of engagement in these times of social distancing, and helping drive up employee satisfaction by helping drive a video-first culture, which is something that we've always promoted. In the last 1 month alone, we have enabled 1,000 organizations in India for remote working. That's right, 1,000. This includes banks, manufacturing, technology organizations, unicorns, small companies, etc. So while all of us discharge our national duty of staying at home, we're helping ensure that work goes on.
Yeah. You know, Pankaj, while you were saying this, I just remembered yesterday I was speaking to the Deputy Chief Minister here in Karnataka, and he was saying that, just to ensure that people work effectively, because for everything to run, the internet connection has to be there, electricity has to be there. So they have made sure the first and foremost thing that they have done for the professionals is to ensure that the internet is, the bandwidth is good, and there is no shortage of electricity. And I think those things also helps. to ensure that, the scale that you are saying, 25,000, it's very unimaginable to see that number of people can come and be trained right now, right? Like
it's a valid point. Just to comment on that, so you said electricity, bandwidth, etc. What we also realized is, so collaboration tool comes later. The first thing, a lot of organizations are not enabled to work remotely. What that means is the security policies, VPN, etc., which is required, is not there, and now you have people using these devices without the protection of a secure network, accessing all kinds of sites. So we've provided those solutions as well, and we are doing all of this for free. Everything that I spoke about, including commercial organizations, all of this is being done free.
Thanks, Pankaj, for telling this, because we as startups feel a little scared of WebEx because we think it's going to be expensive. So,
we'll make our money at some point of time, but right now we're giving it free.
But good that you clarified. Everyone listening to this would be very happy to hear it that WebEx, many things are free and it is not expensive. Okay, so now I'll go to all the HR experts who are here. Please tell us, in your organizations, how are you implementing this work from home, and is there any specific learning which we all can take from what you are doing? Hari, Big Basket, the company of the moment. We are all relying on Big Basket. How are you? What are you doing? Tell us.
I think very special or very specific. I don't think we are a very sophisticated company. Frankly, we are a very down-to-earth company. So as principals don't have the kind of sophisticated tools that Pankaj is talking about. So I think work from home, some principles, which is, I think, when I used to work from home in the past, for me, it was just about having the phone next to me where I could check my email, respond to email, respond to WhatsApp messages, and have the laptop switched on in some room. And maybe I was sitting with my family and watching TV, and that was work from home. But I think now work from home is really about locking myself in a room in the same working hours from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I think that's work from home now for me. So it is about doing everything that I would do in the office, informal chats, informal calls that I would do, speak to people just for fun, just to find out how things are, how they're doing. So work from home is about all of this for me. And my lessons about work from home after seeing this for about 10, 15 days, most quarters, is that teams which work effectively at the workplace also work effectively from home, which means that teams that plan meetings well, they circulated the agenda, they were prepared for those meetings, they conducted the meetings well, they didn't do meetings that were not required, they minuted the meetings. I think those meetings will happen well remote as well. Those teams which empowered individuals, those teams which delegated stuff, where leaders delegated stuff, will do well because they don't require too many interactions. So teams where the team members need to consider the boss for everything will struggle to work from home. Teams where people took decisions independently, they did what they were supposed to do without follow-up, they work very effectively remotely. So those are some of the lessons that I am seeing, which is that basic principles of management work well even in remote. And I think bad management gets amplified in a remote working situation. So for example, if you were a poor listener in person, it gets amplified when you're working from home or remote. If you were, didn't walk the talk, it gets amplified. You don't get respected. So I think basic management 101 is very essential to do very well, be effective at work. For me, tools come next. I think the attitude and the approach to leading and managing are more important. And if you do that well, you can do that well in remote.
Thanks. Hari, maybe I'll come back to you and you tell me about the good habits. You said good habits in the peace time, so good habits in the work time. So that's one learning I have. So maybe you can just tell us quick tips on that while we are working from home. Rituparna, tell us, because you are dealing with such diverse workforce, what are some of the things that you're doing in your organization from, which we all can learn?
I think for us it was a huge shock, if I may say so, because an organization which was zero work from home, some of us are perennially traveling, so we are remote, but that's different. But large part of the organizations were working out of offices. And hence, I don't think from a technology perspective, infrastructure, resource, we were ready for it, for sure. But I guess we picked up the early signs and we did the best to kind of mobilize. And it's fascinating that in spite of the limited resources to plan and prepare, everybody came around together to understand that the very premise of doing the business we are is to ensure that every associate employee gets paid on time. Because this lockdown happened at a very, very sensitive time. It happened around between third and the fourth week, which means it had already started seeding a little bit of panic and anxiety in the minds of a lot of these employees, and especially the ones who are outbound, who suddenly cannot go to the sales office, who cannot go to the warehouse, or whatever be the reason, and hence everybody realized the importance of the situation. And it was fascinating to see that irrespective of hours, how people rallied along limited resources, because I don't think everybody even had access to Wi-Fi. Many of our kids actually staying in paying guests hostels. And I'm sure a lot of people in Koramangala or in and around Bangalore are aware that many paying guests and hostels ask them to vacate.
Yeah.
Absolutely no notice.
Yes.
For them, the decision of where do they stay, do they go back home, how do they continue? Of course, we decided how many people can be managed. We have our guest house, how many of them can be managed there, how many actually need to now go back home, but what are the infrastructure I can send? I think somehow we felt that just because people's minds were aligned towards the common vision of ensuring zero disruption for the associate, people were willing to make compromises and yet be able to ensure continuity. I think what we ensured is that let's not change our daily schedules. We are binded by a certain set of reviews and timelines, and I think we extremely review oriented, and we have to be, because things change in our environment on a daily basis. We stuck to that point, and where we said we are not going to change the schedule. Even we start our work. I start my work at 8 o'clock, so our reviews in terms of cross-functional reviews, daily reviews. But one change we did is that rather than having our review schedule panning across 1 hour, we said let's break it up into half an hour slots, because in any case, this is not just a usual work from home. You're working from home where you really can't step out of the house. So there is really not much happening for you to kind of keep yourselves energized beyond the four walls. And hence, half an hour bursts, and making those meetings as vibrant and variant as possible helped people stay in touch and stay tuned to what's happening, or they're not switching off in between the meetings. I'm also a firm believer that given the extended period of lockdown, it's very important for them to be mentally agile and physically agile, because they're all locked down in one room and they're sitting in one place. And I think we've been also encouraging people to take breaks when they have to take breaks, because I do understand there is a tendency sometimes to work at a stretch or work long hours. So I think whenever possible, we are saying, okay, it's not that the day has to be 9 to 6 or 8 to 8, but whenever possible, schedule times which are your personal time, and you do whatever you want to at that point of time. I think being closely in touch with each and every individual, having conversation, engaging them in projects, because a lot of people actually don't have work because of their nature of work. The sales guys, for example, my field sales recruiters, a lot of them have very limited work. So then how do I keep them engaged? And hence putting them through a series of MOOCs learning platforms, creating and curating some content for them, giving them projects and assignments which are short-term in nature to kind of keep them activated and motivated. So that, because I'm particularly conscious that after a point of time, the first 2-3 days, there was enthusiasm of working from home. After that, it honestly starts getting onto you. So I do not want them to slip to a mode of extreme pessimism or negativity as well. So that's what we are doing as a business.
Thanks, Rituparna. That was very helpful advice. So, one thing I'm taking from what you said is that 10 minutes meeting, breaking the meetings. Yeah. Okay. Sudeep, Walmart Labs has such diverse and huge employees, across the world. How are you guys dealing? And I know that Walmart Labs here in India works with, like Hari was mentioning, with teams in different time zones. How are you working, and how are you, finding issues in your organization?
So I think the transition, honestly, compared to some of the other organizations, has not been as jarring because of our primarily tech workforce, and it is we anyway have our associates creating their own flexible work options and schedules because of the fact that we work across multiple time zones and multiple businesses and jobs. So I think the transition hasn't been as jarring, but I think overall, obviously, when you move to a completely remote location, not just for India, but across all other locations, it's going to be difficult. Our response has been on 4 fronts. I mean, the first is about immediate support. Some of it has been very reactive. So, for example, the situation that Rituparna spoke about, large chunks of population who suddenly don't have accommodation or who have issues, how do you manage that and help people with that? Or simple things like, we had to make an entire medical reimbursement process virtual immediately, right? Because this is a time for need for people and we can't insist on hard copies and so on. So we've had to focus on immediate support. We introduced doctor on call, we introduced counselors on call because we realize that people are going through tough times. So we introduce all of those things which are more about supporting people through this transition period. The second part of it has been around, from a people perspective, looking at an entire process from hire to retire and seeing what can we do to make sure that we still continue to do what's right for the business, but make it virtual. So we switched virtually seamlessly. We switched to virtual recruitment, virtual onboarding, joining formalities, training sessions, exit formalities, and so on. Right. So we've been able to make that transition within a few days, and I think that's helped instill a lot of confidence amongst our associates and leaders that we are on the right track. The third piece related to that is also around communication. I mean, never before has the point about communication being as important as today, right? So we have our country head, Hari, and others constantly connecting and communicating with people. We have weekly manager meetings because they are really the ones who are majorly impacted and are managing their team members. Last week we conducted an interesting session. Forgive me, Pankaj, but we do Zoom, so we had an Ask Me Anything kind of session for our leadership team with all our associates just signing in and doing just a Q&A session around that. We have weekly mailers and little personal updates and anecdotes being set out by leaders. So I think the time to connect and be transparent with our people is really important. And the fourth part is enabling this journey as well, right? So a lot of resources available out there that we've compiled for our people in terms of articles, collaboration tools, tips for how to make this transition, how to manage. We're cognizant of the fact that people are not just focused on work from home, right? They're also going through a tremendously stressful time outside their work lives as well. People are going through some very specific personal challenges. How do you make sure that we give that support to our people and give them resources, especially for our managers and leaders? I mean, we've all been running manager capability programs for many years. This is a good test of that. But this adds a certain layer of complexity to it as well. So how do you enable our managers and leaders to lead remotely during this period? What does it mean to lead remotely in the first place? We're doing a lot of investment, a lot of resources are focused on that as well. So yeah, these are some 4 or 5 things that we are doing to make sure that we continue to remain positive, confident, productive during this period. Radha, I think you're muted.
Positive, because generally HR people are so serious and you're smiling and giving the answers, so it's very encouraging for all of us, and thanks, very valid points. Before we open to the audience, I wanted to ask Pankaj you this question. See, me and like me, a lot of millions of this country, we have been using WhatsApp, right? It's very ubiquitous to us. We use it regularly. We know that what we communicate is safe, secure. At least that's the feeling that we have. Now we are all using these online tools, and there have been questions, if you may say so. We've read that there have been security lapses in some of these web tools, right? Like these platforms. How are you looking at WebEx, and is it secure, or like nothing is secure? But what are you doing about security here?
Okay, so hey, this is a very important consideration. I mean, just think about it. When you are in a closed door meeting, you are assured of the confidentiality of the discussions. Now, when this same meeting moves to a collaboration platform, you would expect the same level of confidentiality. What would happen if a random stranger is able to join this meeting and listen in, get access to your internal content? Even worse, what happens if this person can post objectionable content while your meeting is going on? We've all been reading stuff over the last few days. So these are aspects related to security. Of equal importance are privacy related concerns. Does someone have access to your data? And is that data being rented or sold to external organizations like Facebook? In the current scenario, every employee is downloading an application for remote work. You mentioned WhatsApp, it could be something else, and exposing your organization to huge amounts of risks. It is important that you do a serious assessment of the security and privacy track record of the collaboration solution that you choose. At Cisco WebEx, our guiding principle always has been collaboration without compromise. So Cisco will never compromise on any security requirements. Privacy, Cisco does not rent or sell your personal data. Encryption, Cisco provides the option to enable end-to-end encryption of data. So not just data in use, but while it's in transit and while it's at rest. And it comes with a security key that control. Intellectual property, so Cisco ensure. So we process and store your recordings, transcriptions, and all other data in-house. We do not compromise your data by outsourcing that to a third party. Transparency, we publicly disclose known vulnerabilities. We build products based upon a Cisco secure development lifecycle, and we have an independent security and trust organization, which is independent of WebEx, which monitors all of this. So it's no surprise that we are a long-standing market leader trusted by 95% of the Fortune 500 organizations.
A lot of private messages from a lot of attendees. So these are secret between me and the attendees, right? This data is secure, these questions are secure, or everyone gets to see. These are privately sent messages.
Oh, whatever is privately sent remains private. We deliver what we commit. You don't have to like even 1% out of that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but this is good. Now to all the panelists, last before I open, we are running out of time. Just, and Hari, I would begin with you. If you have to give one tip to the business owner, because I see a lot of business owners here, startup owners, entrepreneurs, business owners, managers, and one tip to employees in this time, what would it be?
Yeah. So, you put me on a spot. So, the one tip, the one magic answer, I don't know. I think for managers, it is stay in touch. Stay in touch with your teams. Stay in touch like you stayed in touch in person. I think that is very critical. I don't know who said this. I think Sudeep said this, that communication is critical. So I think in remote teams, that becomes even more important. So I would say that in remote working, communication is critical. And good management practices are important. So learn your management 101 very quickly. Learn how to trust, learn how to build trust between teams and do all of that. And I think you asked for one tip about for team members, right? Let me just think. Team members, I think maybe keep everybody informed on what they are up to, what they're doing, how they're progressing. So communication as well. So I can't think of anything more than communication as the most important tip to work with. You're on mute.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
I think someone else is controlling my mute or unmute. Anyways, only it must be. Hari, but I think it's a very important point, right? Because in India, somehow, as employer and employee, right, we feel very shy of not to intrude or disturb, especially now that we are all working from home. So what you are saying is that it's absolutely important, necessary, and don't be shy if you have to keep, over communicate at this time.
Actually, I have a slightly different point of view, Shraddha, on this, but Indians tend to intrude a lot into personal spaces. And in fact, in the Western world, people don't even share their personal numbers. And on Saturdays, you're not expected to get in touch. So in India, people get in touch in any time. So I think intrusion is a way of life in India. So I would say that I'm not saying intrude, but stay in touch and communicate.
Embrace your natural state of being. Thank you. Thanks so much, Hari. Very, very, very good advice, I think this is. Thank you. Rituparna, please.
I think it's clear that there will be some very hard decisions that we might have to take in the times to come. But my submission is that once the crisis gets over, people will remember how each employer behaved. And of course, an employer has to survive, to succeed, but the communication, which has already been emphasized by Pankaj, by Hari, but communication, fairness, and transparency in decision making probably will go a long way in the willingness of employees to share the pain, because every business is would go through some pain or the other. And from the perspective of employees, I do believe that here is the time when one cannot take anything for granted. And I would humbly submit that whenever times get difficult, one thing which always helps you tide through it is invoke the learnability inside you. So this is the time for you to skills, add few new muscles, and it will probably help you to tide through the future, which at the moment feels or seems quite difficult to model.
No, I think a very, very honest feedback, because yes, most of the business owners, entrepreneurs, and for people, it would, the coming weeks, coming months would require taking hard decisions. And what you're saying is that how do you take hard decisions, and how do you communicate that hard decision, and how do you bring respect, and the free flow of communication will matter a lot. Rituparna, thank you for the very valuable advice. Sudeep?
I think I'll echo that. I think after these times are over, hopefully soon, people are going to look back at leaders and managers and companies and see which ones reacted and which ones responded. So I think I would urge everyone to carefully think as they are thinking about decisions into their, whether it be about structures or about business or about people or about communication. Are we reacting or are we responding? So that's my first point. And the second one, to I think everyone, each one of us, never we've all been reading about it. It's all part of these competency frameworks that we are part of in many companies. But this is truly the time to be able to build muscle on that competency and demonstrate flexibility and agility from a personal, individual point of view, rather than being passive about it and expecting others to do it. So that's something I would say to pretty much everyone, including myself and anyone who's talking to us right now.
Thank you. So agility and flexibility at this time more than ever. Yeah, while we are locked up. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sudeep. Pankaj? Pankaj, are you there?
Yes. I will just say one change that we all need to make is we all need to be more humane. I think beyond the fact that our teams are being forced to work from home, they're all humans. They would have anxieties around things which are playing around us. They might know friends or family who might be impacted. I come from Mumbai, which is the district with the highest rate of infections, and whichever person that I talk to in my friend circle knows of someone who's been impacted. So we need to be conscious of that. If that means revising our expectations for the next few weeks from our teams, so be it. It might mean reaching out to people beyond work, checking if they are all right, if there is any way that you as an individual or the organization can help. I think these are the things that we can do differently beyond what folks hear about.
Yeah, thank you. This is very being humane is the essence of. We are all grounded right now more than ever that we are all human beings and we are all in it together. Thank you. Very important question. So we have 5 minutes. I'll ask one question which I thought is very interesting, and we have such outstanding HR experts, so maybe we should get this answer from you. As there is a near zero freeze in lateral hiring across industries due to unprecedented situation, do you feel that future of gig economy will be elevated from multiple dimensions? Yeah, that's a good question in India, no, because they look for permanent jobs. Hari?
I think overall, the gig economy or the gig nature of work is bound to increase in India as well. The blue collar side, it has taken off in a very big way. In the white collar side, I think it hasn't taken off in India. But my sense is that ability to define jobs very sharply, ability to define what is required to get done, and ability to define outcomes. I think if you can do that, then you can outsource jobs to individuals. For example, if you say that developing a website, and these are the components of developing a website, you don't need an employee to do that. You can have someone in Surat sitting and building a website for you. So I think an ability to processize and define your outcomes clearly will help the gig economy. I think what this has done is that it is forcing people to think what can be done remote, and therefore what can be done from Surat. You don't need to have somebody sitting in your office in Bangalore. It's forcing people to define outcomes more sharply, define pieces of work that can be done independently. So in my opinion, it will certainly give a boost, but I don't know if it is a big bang boost or not. It's certainly a step in the right direction.
Thank you. So it's 11:57. One thing which I wanted to ask all of you, and there are questions on that order also, to all of you. How are you individually? You are such successful people. All of you are leaders. Tell me, how do you spend your time? How are you efficiently using using your work from home time? And is it different from what? How is it different and how is it same?
That's a good question, Shraddha. How's it different? How's it same? I think one thing that I'm sure a lot of people, including me, are appreciating is the fact that you picked up on commute time. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is commute time is also sets boundaries. And commute time is often used for a lot of thinking and planning and so on, and timeouts, so to speak, right? So I think the tendency is that work and life now gets completely integrated, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that you need to change your working style a little bit. The way I have done it is I do have very long working hours now, from very early morning to very late evening, but I've set boundaries in the middle and kept myself focused to say there are periods of the day where I'm completely incommunicado, unless of course anything urgent, but otherwise taking time out to spend with family or do a lot of household chores, which many of us are doing for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a statistics, that post-COVID men will be far efficient home workers.
Yeah, I don't know about the efficient bit, but definitely a lot more hard work than they were earlier.
They start working at least at home a lot more.
That is true.
Rituparna?
So I think two primary change that has happened. I think I'm somebody who's very used to working remotely because I spent 3 days traveling in a week in a non-COVID kind of an environment. So I think for me, the change is that I'm actually not taking flights. Actually, just before COVID, in 30 days, I must have taken 20 flights. Wow. So I think I'm seeing lots of airports, but I think I am used to working remotely, and I feel that's an extension. The two things is that no more I have to answer questions on work-life balance. It's a very important change because that's a question that I never actually thought had an answer or had the right answer. And I'm very glad that I don't have to answer to that question to anyone because I don't think anything like work-life balance now exists. And the third thing which I'm doing, rather it's not a change, is that I'm somebody who's a firm believer of the Say No to Sugar campaign. And whenever I get too engrossed or too caught up and I need a break, I try out new recipes which doesn't need sugar or flour. So I think these are the three things which I can indulge in, or is different maybe in my.
Rituparna, those recipes, you should broadcast it. The next webinar, you should share it. All of us. You know how important no sugar recipes are for the whole human race, which is sitting and working from home and not exercising. Thank you. Hari, what are you doing differently? I can't hear you, Hari.
Did you ask me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think this is not normal work from home. These are extraordinary times. So working very hard, doing multiple things. I think this is a unique situation where you're solving not only your problems, but trying to help a lot of other people. So I am working 14 hours a day. But the normal work from home, normal work from office means I don't work a lot of home. So that's it.
Yours, I know also that you are working quite a lot and you're looking energetic and fresh. So those tips maybe you can give us in the next session, how to do that. Pankaj?
Besides realizing that I'm extremely unskilled in a lot of housework, I think the big realization for me has been, how do I differentiate a Friday from a Saturday? Because in any case, on a Saturday, I don't have anything else to do. And so you end up with housework. So what I did, and also for my daughters who are no longer going to school and suddenly sitting at home, as well as for myself for the weekends, we've drawn up a schedule. And there is some flexibility in that and some fixed things, and we try and stick to that schedule. So I think that is something which is different for me.
Amazing. Maybe your daughters will definitely grow up and thank you for this time, right?
I hope so.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions which the panelists have put, the attendees have put, and these are very good questions. So I wanted to take this opportunity to ask all of you, should we compile all these questions, send it out to you, and you can answer it, and then we can circulate it to all the attendees in the next few days, in the next 4-5 days, if that's
absolutely. I think that's the right thing to do. Let's do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.